Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. Bill sent us an email this week at planttalkradio.com. He says, I have a couple of window boxes in front of our house. I usually fill them up with annuals. I was just wondering, are there any perennials that would survive from year to year in a window box?
Probably so. However, I have to advise against it. A window box is like a potted plant that you'd leave set out. And the problem comes in with the fact that almost all plants are more or less used to being frozen root-wise from the top down. And only down so far. Whereas in a window box or pot, the plant's roots will be exposed to quick freezing from the side walls of the pot or box or basket or whatever it may be. And I think that health would be extremely jeopardized. Now, more importantly to me, window boxes are used for having color. And perennials, almost every one of them, has a blooming period, which would be 2.5, 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more. But there won't be a continuum of color as with annuals. I know annuals are pain in the wrist or whatever you want to call it when you're planting them every spring. But to get maximum color, I would have to advise against the perennial just because it doesn't show flowers for more than a given period. Now, there are a couple of exceptions to that. I'm thinking right now, if it would be good background, if the pot's big enough, you could use, for example, a variegated sedge, which is a perennial. It's tough as nails in general, probably would survive the freezing, and it would be strictly a striated leaf plant that, well, there's various kinds, but I'm thinking of one that hits the 12, 15, 18 inches in height, doesn't get too wide and take up too much space. It probably would live over. But, Bill, I think, having said that, I would be prejudiced toward continuing to use annuals. I just don't think the plants would live during the summer. They would flower as they should. They might make it over, but then I think you're cheating yourself of the color that was available through the annual use instead of the perennial.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com